Hey, welcome to HR Famous, brought to you by Kinetix, the leading RPO recruiting firm for growth companies. Named by HRO Today as the top midsize RPO provider, Kinetix uses its unique skill-based recruiter model to deliver on RPO engagements, allowing them to customize scope to meet your unique hiring needs. If you have recruiting challenges and want to consider RPO as a solution, give Kinetix a call. Find them online at kinetixhr.com. HR Famous is also brought to you by HRU Tech, a contingent staffing firm specializing in engineering, IT, and technically related placements across multiple industries. If you're looking for technical talent or searching for a career, look no further than HRU Tech. Find them online at hrutech.com and call them today. Hey, what's up, everybody? HR Famous, we're back. Chris Dunn with you, CHRO at Kinetix, fistful of talent, HR capitalist, blah, blah, blah. Happy to be joined. It's like the dream team today. Happy to be joined by Jessica Lee, and there's no Tim Sackett. I'm not saying that that's the dream team without Tim Sackett, but I am saying just having a really strong conversation with Jessica Lee. One of the highlights of my week. Jessica, how are you?
Wow. I'm
Yeah.
good. You know, the blah, blah, blah. Sometimes I feel like that too, though. Like, are these kids listening? Are these people on this conference call listening? Blah, blah, blah.
I like the fact that you're saying, are the kids listening in your daily work life now? Because for a long time with you and I, you were the kid, and you're still the kid. You're still the kid to me, but I like the fact that you've really assumed that position in your career where you're like, damn, kids, are
I
you
know.
listening? Can you give me some type of vibe that tells me you're listening?
Oh my gosh. Well, I have to tell you, I know that I will always be a kid to you, but sometimes I feel old. Like I'm older at work. Like I'm not the young one. It's very weird, but time is
Well,
flying.
so I think what'll happen, JLee, is you'll get through that and you'll start trying to convince yourself that you're younger. Just last night, my oldest one, who is 19 years old, is with us. He's a freshman in college, but obviously he's with us during this lockdown period. And he gets out of a chair, and I've heard him say this before. He's like talking about how old he is. So we have this perception that like there are people in their 20s. Gary Vee talks about this all the time, right? There are people in their 20s that think it's already too late.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
I'm
that's so
like,
sad.
I've turned the big corner, the 5-0, and I'm like, shit, this is just getting started. We're good.
You know
I
what we
don't know.
should do is we should all get Botox and let's talk about like the effect of that on our careers and this pursuit of youth. I'm in for it.
Let's talk about the mental side of that as well, right? Did it do everything that we
Yes.
expected it to do? Did it
Yes.
unleash the fountain of youth? Okay, wait. So we're going to talk about return to work today. Before we do that, Tim Sackett's not with us. Do you know where he's at, JLee?
Oh, you know what? I just think he's a jerk because if you follow him on Instagram and see where he is, I'm bitter, I'll be honest.
So for the uninitiated, Tim Sackett is somewhere on location. I'm putting that in quotation marks, by the way, in Utah, southern Utah.
Mm.
So, JLee, I've seen the pictures too. Here's what I'll tell you. It's like he's doing like it's like he's doing a 50-year-old version of Burning Man. It's just like Burning Man, except with more golf, a lot of golf and luxury Jeeps on semi-paved trails. It's just like Burning Man, except for that.
Oh my gosh. Well, I don't know that he's doing the drugs that they do at Burning Man, but I will say,
Good
even though I'm a
disclaimer.
hater, I am happy to see him traveling. I mean, I want to see people travel soon as long as it's safe. So I'll appreciate
Amen.
that.
Yeah,
Yes.
good. Okay, so we're talking, speaking of getting back to normal, we're talking about return to work. So, JLee, just, doing what you do as an HR professional, myself as well, and everybody we talk to. And by the way, JLee's going to slip off for a work thing after like 15 minutes or so. And we're going to bring on Ed Baldwin, who's an HR leader for a company called Micron, to talk about his own personal experience with return to work. But JLee, return to work, a lot of people are trying to figure this out. Some people already have it figured out, and they probably have like really like hard coded plans in terms of what the return to work is going to look like whenever that happens. You know, what we're reading, what we're hearing, what we're like getting emails about is that if we bring folks back, we got to get ready for the new normal. Temperature scanning. I've been scanned a couple times this week
You
away from the
have?
house. Yeah, where somebody
Where?
points it right at your head. So I had to go to sports medicine with my youngest son, had a little back tweak,
Mm,
and he's got a history with that. So we, by the way, I just violated HIPAA on
yeah,
my
you
own
did.
podcast.
Good
Okay,
job.
so we went there and they scanned us, and then get this, JLee. Um, they scanned us and they had the office pretty well set up because they had kiosks to go check in,
Yeah.
so touchless, and they actually like had you put out your pointer finger, and they slid a little like plastic thing on my finger so I wouldn't come in direct contact with the surface. Does that make sense? They just slid it on my finger so I could just use one finger to check in on the screen. It was
I think
amazing.
that's what they do, like, when you're visiting someone in jail. Not that I know. Just like what I've seen on TV. It sounds like that.
It does sound a little like that. But okay, so JLee, so what we got to get ready for is temperature scanning. Probably, you know, we got this whole testing thing, thermal scans if you really had the budget for that. I think you got to think about distancing, so conference rooms, et cetera, et cetera. I know you like a lot of our listeners are getting pounded with emails trying to tell you what the new normal is going to be,
Oh
trying
my
to sell you
gosh.
things. What's your take on all this related to return to work?
Well, first, I've never seen like the RTW. We all know the acronym now. RTW, what's the RTW plan?
Yeah.
Um, but I think like you have to segment it, right? Like it depends on, is your workforce remote and is this about just getting them back into the office? Or is this also about like if people have not been working because of the nature of your business and you're bringing them back? And, one of the things that like I've been thinking a lot and trying to drive some conversation around is I like there's all these mechanics of what we need to do to bring people back to work, but I'm I'm really worried about like it's not just like an on off switch and just like the anxiety people might have around like what it's going to be like to go back to an office or a workplace. And I don't know, I worry we're underestimating like the feelings people have around like, oh gosh, what does it mean? And like it's just it's weird to have to go back to work and all of a sudden you have all these new norms and new behaviors. And I don't know, I think people are like
Yeah.
fearful.
So that's a really interesting point because I was just telling my business partner Shannon Russo. I was
Shout
just
out to
telling,
Shannon.
yeah, shout out to Shannon. I was just telling her that one of the things on my list, I'm going to try and get to this early this week. We have no like quick plans to get back in the office. We're a recruiting company and we're doing just fine with folks out there. You know, operations continue even though hiring's down, and we're doing what we do. But I was telling Shannon, to your point, like underestimating the sentiments and feelings of people. I told her, I said, hey, like, as long as you are good with it, I think we're going to do a quick hitting survey of our
Mm,
folks. And
yeah.
basically, what I want to know, I mean, it's real simple, right? JLee, you could guess this. I mean, you get deeper than this, but it's really all about, hey, so we went home. Okay. Like everybody went home. We've been doing the Zoom calls. We had a happy hour um, last night. So we're trying to like stay connected like that. Shout out to all the Kinetix crew, by the way, on that happy hour. And really what I want to know is I want to know, hey, you just went home. So out of everybody in our company, who A wants to stay home,
Hmm.
who B is saying, get me out of here and get
Yeah.
me back to the new normal, which by the way, we were doing like a minimum of 2 days remote
Yeah.
and 3 days in the office, which
Okay.
I think is like a really, really nice mix for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And then who's not sure and who has like concerns
Yeah.
about all this stuff. And, you know, the bottom line, JLee, as you're kind of alluding to, is we really don't know. And I think we're going to end up at a new normal where if you really care about your workforce, especially for the most talented people, you're going to have a bunch of different plans in place. It's not going to be a one size fits all, right?
Totally. You gotta give people options because, like,
Right.
one of the things that, like I've been thinking about is when people do go back to work, you know, if you're to require it, say, or the nature of your business is one where you've got to bring people back and they have to be face to face to deliver service or do the work, and they have to be out of their home. Like, let's say schools are still closed. Like, how are people going to deal with like that anxiety around like, how do I figure out childcare? Or if you have a spouse or other family members or grown kids that are, work doing their schooling from home, like the idea of bringing germs back home and how do people feel about that? I just feel like there's all this protocol that's going to have to get introduced, and like it's just a lot of change. And I don't know, I feel like there's this important piece that I hope HR folks are embracing around thinking about the well-being aspects, the emotional mental well-being, because I don't think we really know like what is the impact of like this pandemic, because it's just so different.
Yeah, and if you think, JLee, just to kind of, tell you where we're at. So we're in no rush. I think a lot of people
Yeah.
are trying to figure out, by the way, that, that's one of the reasons I wanted to bring Ed on after this. So, we forget when we're reading like Inc. magazine and we're
Fast
reading
company.
Fast Company, we forget a lot that there's this whole sector in manufacturing, there's this whole sector in retail where really you don't have an option.
Yeah, they never shut down.
Yeah, they never shut down. So Ed's going to like kind of drop some knowledge on us from his own experience, and he's a super like humble guy. So he'll kind of like walk us through that. So let me tell you the vibe at Kinetix, okay, JLee? So I mentioned the fact that I want to survey our folks. So we ordered our masks. So we've got masks in. So we're ready to go on that. By the way, they're logoed up.
I was about to
Um,
ask, are they branded?
yeah, they're branded. That's a good
All
call
right.
on Shannon's part, and our graphic designer did a nice job with it.
Okay.
Um, so they're color appropriate, branded. People will either love that or hate that. Hey, the other thing, JLee, from a business perspective, and then we're going to flip it to people like Google and Twitter and Jack Dorsey. Talk about that real quick, and then I'll get you out of here and onto your day. I think the other thing that we ran into is like we were literally weeks, if not a month, away from signing a brand new lease.
Mm,
So we were at the end of our lease, and now that's really why we need to survey our folks and figure out what's up. But there's a couple of things. First of all, we don't know now that the full remote work is out of the bottle. We don't know what the preference of our workforce is truly. I'm going to
mhm.
figure that out pretty quickly. But then we also don't know what the new normal is going to be related to the space that we need, related to our ability to do that if this thing flares up. I would rather focus on the positive and just say, hey, if we learn something new about remote work, then how much space do we truly need? So I would tell you, as a small to medium sized business, we just happen to be at the end of our lease, and literally we're probably weeks away from signing like a long term thing.
Crazy.
So there's some fortune there, right?
That would be such an interesting like data point to dig into, like across the country or even globally, like what is happening from a real estate perspective. And that's I'm gonna have to do some research now.
Hey, this is William Tincup, and you should know about the You Should Know podcast. It's a topical, fun podcast with Ryan, myself, and a guest, or guests, plural sometimes, and we tackle the most timely topics of the day. Give it a look, give it a listen, and subscribe. Thanks.
Well, let's dig into some of the big brands. What I like to call the sexy brands that Fast Company and Inc. magazine would follow, JLee. So there was news out over the last week. Jack Dorsey, who's the CEO not only of Twitter but I think of Square, so he's the CEO of two companies. He's spread a little thin, by the way. The headlines were, JLee, that Jack Dorsey from Twitter came out and said that Twitter employees can work remote forever. Did you see this?
Forever. I saw the word forever.
Yeah, tell me about forever, because I know just like me, you automatically go to the forever word, right?
I mean, what is forever? So, like, I think that's cool, like, cool, that's a cool idea, but, like, we've seen these trends already, like, in the past where I think was it IBM that said, "Hey, everyone, you can work remote, that is the model," and then they recalled, like, everyone back to the office at a certain point, and I'm surprised that anyone would use the word forever because, like, how do you know? How do you know what's gonna work? How can you really make that commitment? What is forever?
Yeah,
A
I
diamond
agree.
is forever.
I agree. And by the way, if you really like dig into Jack Dorsey, so again, CEO of two companies, and he was on the verge of going to Africa to manage those two companies remotely from Africa, I think for like 6 months.
Yeah.
And then there was a new investment round in his company, new investors, and he thought the better of it, which is probably a good thing. So, one of the other things about to give a little credit to Twitter and Jack Dorsey. So, I dug into this because I read the headline like everybody else, and I agree with you, JLee. It's like remote forever. Are you sure? But if you one of the giving points is he did say in the initial kind of like press that this got that the offices would be available for people when they're ready to open. So
Yeah.
it wasn't like he was saying, "Hey, we're going 100% remote all the
Right,
time."
right.
He said, "Hey, the offices will be there for the people that want them, but if you want to work remote forever, you can do that." That's like 80% of
Yeah.
the we're working remote forever. So I think that got lost a little bit. Hey, I don't know if you saw this headline, but former Google CEO Eric Schmitt actually said in the last week and a half that, hey, by the way, this whole like remote work thing and everything that's happening with COVID, by the way, from Eric Schmitt, former Google CEO, companies aren't going to need less real estate for their employees. They're going to need more. There's actually going to be a gold rush of real estate. I won't color you, JLee, but react to that one for me.
Well, so there is like this very practical aspect to what he's saying around if you have a workforce that's coming back into a physical space of an office, like you might literally need like more space in order to ensure that social distancing guidelines or physical distancing guidelines are being adhered to and that people feel comfortable because like my office right now is like I don't know it's I'm going to estimate 10 feet by 15 feet wide space. There's a
It's
big
like
table in the middle,
it's like
and
3,000 feet.
it's like
Like
3,000 square
your
feet.
office. There's a sitting area.
No, but like we have a table in the middle and we cram a bunch of people in my office all the time for meetings because we don't have a lot of meeting space in my building.
Right.
And so we use my space for meetings all the time. And like we have 6 people, 8 people crammed in there around a table. Like we're not going to want to do that in the future or be able to do that. And so like you're going to need more space potentially. And so just on a very pragmatic level, like there might be something to what he's saying.
Have you ever had somebody sit on the floor against the wall in one of those meetings, JLee? Has it ever become that packed and that like full of COVID awful like possibilities? Have you ever had somebody sit on the floor?
No, but I do have like a footstool or two that is primarily meant for people to raise their feet because
That's like an
I
Apple box. That's like you pulling out the Apple box and saying, "Hey, Jenny, would you mind just sitting on the Apple box?" It's not you. We just didn't have enough space.
it's not as bad as like flipping the trash can over and saying, "Here, sit on that." But you know what's so funny now that I'm thinking about it? Like we used to cram all these people in my office for meetings. Like why did we not just go to a virtual environment? Like I can't even fathom doing that anymore, knowing how well we've gotten at like virtual meetings, on Microsoft Teams or something. Like it's just, I think it's bizarre now that I think back on it. It's crazy.
Are you guys using Microsoft Teams? Is that the primary tool right now?
Yeah, yeah, we're a big Teams
Tell
fan.
me, I'm going to get back to Eric Schmidt in just a second because I got a counter to what you said. But since you mentioned Microsoft Teams, what do you like best about Microsoft Teams for those meetings? What's like is there a hidden trick there? Because I was just on a leadership development call with a client for an hour, like a leadership team and kind of their direct reports. We were talking about Teams. Have
Yeah.
you unlocked like a feature that you didn't know when you first started and you're just using it for video that's been meaningful?
I don't know if there's like a feature of like the Teams virtual meeting, like in particular that I like. Although just in the past week, we realized they've like, you can see all faces, like 9 box, like they're getting into the Zoom space in terms of number of people you can see. But like we use Teams a lot for document sharing, for file sharing, for chat within like smaller groups. And so having that all in one place for me is like nice. I can do like a lot of collaboration within teams and while we're on a virtual call. So I like
I
it
got
for that reason.
I've got a couple of follow-ups for you on that. So did you say, because I don't know how to unlock this, did you say that they have achieved the Zoom-like Brady Bunch 9 box grid or whatever it is? Is
Yeah,
that
yeah,
now
yeah.
available?
It's in the past week. Like there is an update to the Teams app where I can now see everyone on the call.
That's
But
huge.
there are always those people who don't turn on their camera. So that's the only thing.
I like it. Those people, JLee, are like the folks, and I'm not guilty of this, but they're like the folks say, oh, something's wrong with my camera,
Yeah, right.
blah, blah, blah. Right. That was like the early laptop days. That's like
Yes.
the old commercials that used to say, oh, I didn't get your call because I'm having cell phone coverage
Yeah.
issues. It's
I
like,
can't hear you. My band, it's like I don't have enough bars.
okay, so I got to dig in to the Zoom Brady Bunch view because I didn't know that that was available. One last thing, and then I'm going to start to wrap up, and I'll get you out of here, JLee. One last thing is on the messaging, the chat.
Hmm.
Did you at your company or even in your department, did you have to dig in and like force adoption of chat on Microsoft Teams and get rid of other tools in order to leverage kind of the full like community environment of chat on Teams?
Well, because I'm no longer the young one anymore, it wasn't me forcing it. I think other people actually forced the chat and made it more of a norm, and so I have gotten on board with it. But no, I think it's like natural behaviors of people, maybe even younger than I, who've actually made us do it. But the funny thing about the chat is, like in Teams, I feel like this is turning into a Microsoft commercial, but in Teams, like they have emojis and gifs built in, but I don't think people have sanitized like the GIFs that are available for you to choose from because some of them are not safe for work. So I am
That's
quite
am-
amused by that.
that's amazing. Yeah, that's amazing. That would make it into the product.
Yeah,
Okay, so you didn't force adoption. Some of your
the
enlightened.
kids did.
Okay, we'll just say yeah, the kids did. And they probably did that to you because you forced somebody on the footstool like at one time. I'm joking, Jaylee. Hey, I
Probably.
want to get back to Eric Schmitt real quick, and then we'll wrap up, Jaylee. So I think you make the great point, right? That the obvious thing is we're going to need social distancing. Let me tell you, and I'll try not to go off on a rant because I may like actually do this on my own at some point. I think Eric Schmitt saying that America is going to need more office space, not less. I agree with you that social distancing changes the formula a little bit, but I got to tell you that, like, based on everything that's going on economically and me being kind of more in the small to medium sized business area, or even your company, I think to say that we're going to spend more on real estate, not less, is pretty tone deaf. And I
That's
feel, I
interesting.
mean, because at the very least, you're going to stay even on office space and you're going to increase your social distancing and you're going to send more people home to work remotely because that's just kind of the mix. Like, I can't see, for the next few years, I can't see anybody saying, hey, you know what I need? I actually need more like real estate.
I'm
Like,
going to
hey,
use all that PPP money I got, and I'm going to have more.
which by the way, like goes away in like 2.5 months,
True, true.
and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
it's like payback. So I don't know. I just think that is a little like pie in the sky. Well,
Well, but speaking of tone deaf though, like I like what you're raising is interesting though, because like the Googles, the Twitters of the world, I think that there is risk of them being more tone deaf than others because they are not experiencing what not as heavily, they're not experiencing what most other companies like service industry companies, small mid-sized businesses are. So I think you got something there in terms of like, are they on the same planet as us right now? I don't know.
can I give you another rant? And
Yeah.
I'm trying to get you like out of here. But the other rant that I really want to go off on one time, or or at some point, is the rant that celebrates people for people who aren't in business, managing business. And, this is kind of part of the cancel culture a little bit, but it's kind of the positive version of the cancel culture where they celebrate people who have made pledges not to lay off folks during this economy. And what I would tell you, and I'm going to be pretty vocal about it, is that that's all like well and good. You can celebrate those people, but I would tell you that as a small to medium sized business owner, there are a lot of people. I mean, just look at the restaurant industry. There are a lot of people struggling, and it's an unrealistic expectation
Completely.
with what happened to the economy, and I think it's not helpful. And I could be stronger in my words, but it's just not helpful.
It's not helpful. It's not recognizing like what the situation actually is and what people are having to manage through. We should just spend the next podcast just ranting on that.
Okay.
An hour-long one.
That might be an hour-long one for sure. And yeah, so I'm ready. I am down for that when you are. Okay, so return to work. As Jessica so astutely pointed out, everybody knows it. RTW.
RT dubs.
So we've got Ed Baldwin coming up. We're going to talk about that. JLee, I'll get you out of here on this. What do you want to say to Tim Sackett as he's riding in his late model Jeep, like across like Zion National Park? Like, what do you want to say to him?
Enjoy it. Please wear a face mask when you are around other people. Sanitize yourself when you get back on that airplane. And I'm going to try not to be a hater.
I'm going to say, hey, Tim, like up your sunscreen game, because the last time I saw you, you were looking kind of gingered up from the sun, which means you don't take sun as well as the rest of the world.
Just burns.
Yeah, maybe a hat, maybe a nice hat out in the sun. Stuff like that. Okay, she's Jessica Lee. I'm Chris Dunn. That's it for this episode of HR Famous. We will drop the interview with Ed Baldwin into the next episode on HR Famous. We'll drop that later on this week. We want to keep these as brisk as possible. Until next time, that's it for HR Famous. We are out.